Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up on the newsreel today, we have the D&D class survey still being live. Again, this is a survey that Wizards put out about the original Player's Handbook classes and subclasses, and they're asking anybody that has run as one or run for one of those classes and subclasses to please go fill out the survey, give them feedback on what they need. I already did it about a week ago now. It is really pretty easy. It takes a little while, so buckle in. Or if there's one in particular that you really, really want to talk about, then you have the option to do that. You just have to go through and select specifically that one. Additionally, in terms of news, this is exciting. The Wilds Beyond the Witchlight module is coming out later this year, right? Well, Wizards went ahead and they released two of the carnival games that are going to be at the Witchlight Carnival. These games apparently are going to be interactable with the players, obviously, and they will allow the players to sort of affect the overall mood of the carnival depending upon how well they are doing. The two games that they released are the Almirage Ring Toss and Giant Snail Races. Now, the ring toss is, from what I can tell, pretty standard ring toss, except you're throwing it onto a rabbit with a unicorn horn. So that's fun. I'm sure that there's going to be a little bit more to it than just that. Like, probably the rabbit runs around or something. It's going to be attack rolls, something like that. And the giant snail races, similar to pig races at a normal, almost like county fair type feel, they are they're going to be able to be raced riderless, but apparently there is going to be a rule set in there for the players to be able to be snail jockeys during the carnival, which sounds wild, which it shouldn't because it's a giant snail, but apparently giant snails are going to be unnaturally fast as well, which makes sense because it is a Feywild-based book. But I'm excited we are getting an insight into what is going to be in that book and sort of the vibe that they're going for all around with it. That is all the news that I have today. Moving along from news to streams. Obviously, it is Thursday, which means that Critical Role is going to be live tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on their YouTube and Twitch channels. Ashley Johnson is DMing her space one-shot that was a stretch goal from their Kickstarter now 2 years ago, something like that. So we are finally getting to see what that's going to be. If you're a fan of Critical Role, you probably really like Ashley. She's super likable. She's super sweet. And I am excited to see what she comes up with for these people, particularly because it is going to be set as like a Space Odyssey kind of thing. So I personally am excited for that. That is all I have written down for streams today. Again, if you know of any streams that I should be checking out and should be talking about in this any weekday of the week, and then I'll throw a weekend schedule on Fridays, let me know. I would love to be supporting good streams that need to get more viewers. Right now, really all I know are these big ones. Simply because every time I try and get on to find other ones, I end up bogged down by the amount of them that are just kind of out there. So if you know of any that are good, please let me know, and I will check them out and possibly add them to the list. So, with all that said, news and streams out of the way, today's topic, it is the first Thursday, which means that I am introducing a segment that I mentioned yesterday called Third Party Thursdays. I am going to be taking a third-party supplement and talking about it every single Thursday, which I'm really excited about. I love third-party supplements. I have a lot of them, which is part of the reason that I wanted to do this. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into today's third-party supplement. The Griffin's Saddlebag. This is obviously the physical book copy of it. This was one of the first D&D resources that I found when I started looking outside of the official source books for stuff, and I love it. Not the physical book, the account associated with it, and I'll explain that in just a sec. So, the Griffin Saddlebag is a predominantly magic item based account that produces new 5e content, specifically new magic items, every single day. Every single day. It started off with them producing one a day for an entire year. And when they had hit that point, they gained such following that they were able to make it their career, which is phenomenal. And honestly, it might have taken less than a year to get to that point as well. I'm not entirely positive. You can find their stuff, so you can at least get a taste of what it's like on Instagram at the Griffin Saddlebag. That's how I ended up finding them. I just started searching through the hashtags D&D, D&D 5e, Magic Item, TTRPG, that sort of thing on Instagram. And I happened across them, and I have fallen in love with their content. It's so good. All of the stuff is really pretty well balanced. On occasion, there's one that should be like up or down a rarity ranking, but that's honestly the only critique I have for it, which is really kind of saying something, because I can get pretty critical about the third-party stuff sometimes, because I like to write homebrew, so I like to be very critical of my own work as well. They predominantly make their money off of Patreon, where you can get access to every item they've ever created, the Ledger Plus, which is this huge digital compendium that has access to everything they've ever created, which is like, I think it's over like 750 or 800 items at this point, which is nuts. You can also buy this book, as well as some like item cards and that sort of thing at hitpointpress.com, which is super cool. Hit Point Press as a whole has got a lot of good stuff on it. So if you are more of a like tangible thing person like me, you can pick up the book there, which is really, really great. So specifically with this book, and part of the reason that I like it so much, one, I got this from their Kickstarter when they did a Kickstarter. This is the deluxe copy. I'm pretty sure they have that available for sale on Hit Point Press as well. So if you like this, like faux leather, shiny, gold edging to all of the pages, you should be able to get this as well, which is fantastic. But it's not just a book filled with magic items. It is predominantly magic items, because that is predominantly what they do. But you also get, let's see, there's magic items, there is a new race, which is a really well thought out race. It's essentially Griffin folk, which we'll talk about in a minute here. It's called the Feathern, and I really like it. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool concept, because it allows you to sort of like mix and match the bird side and the feline side of your heritage to get different combinations. Now, interacting with the way that Wizards has moved away from static ability score increases, you can kind of do that anyway and get what you want, but the system they have in here is really fluid and really easy to use. In addition to that race, there is one new subclass for the 12 original core classes, so nothing for Artificer, but or Blood Hunter, but that's not actually a core class. But each of the new subclasses in here is also really well thought out and actually pretty well power balanced overall. And they tend to take a slightly different approach to the class. And we'll talk about one of them again in a second here, so I can show a little bit more of what I mean. And finally, at the back, well, not finally, towards the back, there are locations as well for you to take and use, for you to be able to steal some ideas from rip-off layers and put them into your game, or for you to supplant them directly into your larger game. And then finally, towards the back of the book, like the actual back of the book, there is a section that is entirely based on monster loot and monster potential loot, so things that different monsters could be dropping. That's sort of woven into the locales, so the different settings that are presented in here also come with monster suggestions, as well as loot that monster could be dropping, which is pretty cool. Um, there, something that I forgot to mention earlier. In addition to hard book item cards that you can also actually get some of the items that are in here made into physical props, if that's something that you're into. They have a link to it on their website page. And the all of their stuff is integrated into Roll20 and Foundry, so if you are a VTT player and you use that sort of system a lot, you can move their stuff directly over into it. No extra work required. I was supposed to say that before I started talking about all the different stuff that's in this book, but whatever, I said it now. So I'm going to go through, I have 5 highlights written down here of some of my favorite stuff. I'm just going to run through them real quick so that we can keep this moving along. Actually, one thing I had forgotten to mention that I just opened to now, they have, there we go, magic item tables at the beginning of the book that include every single item that's in this book, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So anyway, the first thing that I'm going to pull up here is a common item, again, to kind of show you the range that they have on this thing. And here is a look at one of the pages in here. They have, obviously, art for every single one of the items that are presented in this book, because that is how they were presented originally. The one that I want to talk about right now, actually, is the Heart of the Sleeveless that's right here. It's a lot of fun. It's literally just a vest that makes you look more buff and more athletic and more fit, which is just, it's one of those items that has no combat value necessarily, except for maybe intimidation at some point. That is fun to just toss to your players because it gives them a couple more roleplay opportunities and can offer them the ability to be a little bit more creative with stuff as needed. The next one I want to talk about is Shared Burden, which is this guy right here, this chain-looking, arm-looking thing, which is really cool. It is a rare magic item that requires attunement by a warlock. You can choose to add your charisma damage to a warlock cantrip or spell, but in exchange, you take half of that added damage as psychic damage, and that damage surpasses any resistances you might have. So if you're a Kalistrar warlock, you're still taking the full psychic damage from that, which honestly is cool because sometimes you just want to pack a little extra punch, and if you've been sitting on the back lines the whole time and you don't necessarily like need hit points, is a stupid thing to say, I understand that, but if you are sitting on the back lines and you're like, well, I could afford to lose a couple here to add an extra 5 here, because D&D always rounds down, so you're taking, 2 damage if you've got a full 5 as your modifier. It's a good option to have, actually. Next up is an artifact that I love. I have actually converted a little bit in my home game, and it has been one of my favorite items that I've given my player. It is the Ion Breaker Tempest Reach. It is a longbow artifact. It's got so many different effects. There's no way I'm going to be able to get through all of them in any sort of timely manner. But you can add to your initiative with it. You can make another attack. You can do all kinds of different things. It gives you a flying speed. Like, I took some of these features and I stripped them down a little bit, just because of balance at the level that the players were at when I got it. But I love seeing bows that are magic weapons, because you just don't really get that much, which I think is a bummer. Anyway, moving on. Here's the race I was talking about, the Featherin. First off, the art for it, so cool. It's so good. And the thing that I like about this specifically is that even though it came out before Tasha's did, so before the ability score change happened with everything, it was conscious of the fact that people are going to want to play different things and remain their favorite race. And so what they did here is they took, obviously, the 2 halves between your avian and your feline ancestry, and they merged them together. So you are able to mix and match, like I said earlier, and get what you want out of it. So if you're playing by the rules as written here and not the new Tasha's lineage system, if you are a jay, owl, or raven for your avian ancestry, your intelligence score increases by 2. And if you are a cheetah, serval, or tiger for your feline, your dexterity increases by 1. And so all of your avian stuff increases one of your ability scores by one of your mental ability scores, or mental, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, by 2. And your feline stuff increases your physical, your strength, dexterity, constitution by 1. And I can't think of a reason why you couldn't just ask your DM, hey, can I switch that? And they wouldn't say, yeah, sure, go ahead and switch it. Which is cool because it lets you customize it further, like built in. A lot of times you have to like homebrew around some stuff if that's the direction you want to go. But this lets you just go straight for it. And it's honestly so smart to put this in here because, this, again, look at the art for this, right? This is the player character version of the Griffin for this book, which is like the whole theme. And it's cool. It's just cool, honestly. I think it's so good. Obviously, I've said that several times now. Now we're going to look at my favorite subclass out of this book. And that's my last example from the book. If you want more of it, you'll have to go check them out and find stuff, pick up the book, go subscribe on Patreon, whatever. But the Frost Magic Sorcerer, there we go, is, in my opinion, one of the coolest homebrew sorcerer subclasses I have ever gotten to read. It is not like a powerhouse sorcerer subclass, okay? Because so many sorcerer subclasses are built around blasting and just blasting stuff just constantly because they have so few spells and everything like that. And I understand that there are not that many like ice-based, cold-based spells necessarily in 5th edition, which I think is its own issue, not the point. But this is built less around blasting and built more around movement and being mobile around the battlefield. Because one of the core mechanics of this subclass is that you, at first level, pick up a feature called Create Ice, where at first level you use a bonus action to turn up to 5 contiguous 5-foot spaces on the ground into icy terrain originating from your feet. The ice is difficult terrain and lasts until the end of your turn. You can spend 2 sorcery points when creating that terrain to increase the number of spaces you can target with this feature by 5 for each sorcery point. Which sounds dumb and terrible, and it doesn't sound like it creates movement, right? But your other first level feature, Frozen Body, in addition to increasing your hit points, which is awesome by the way because you only have a d6 hit die, you ignore difficult terrain created by ice or snow with this one, and when you walk on ice you only spend 1 foot of movement for every 2 feet you move. So if you are on your ice tracks, everybody else moves slower, and you are like ice skating past them, just flying past. A dash on this, as you get to higher levels, you can create more and more and more of these squares. But a dash on this, at your base speed, is 120 feet total of movement, which is a lot of movement. That's dash, movement, and Step of the Wind for a level, I want to say like 8 or 9 monk. I can't remember exactly when they bumped to 15. Maybe it's a little lower than that. But like that is covering a lot of ground very quickly. Very, very quickly. And there's a couple of other things in here that allow you to like bolster ice spells, or at 18th level you learn the spell Wall of Ice, and you don't have to make them like continuous and stuff like that, and you don't spend a spell slot to cast it. I think it's a really cool subclass. It's one of my favorite flavored subclasses. I really like cold-based subclasses because they haven't really done a lot of those. There have been a lot of fire things sort of across the board, so I'm a big fan of this one. But again, then you get towards, I'm going off the rails here. I'm done with the things that I wanted to talk about. I just want to show you guys setting options. I mean, there's the Everglacier, among others, which is obviously entirely based in winter and cold, which is just cool. There is, where is it? Where is it? I know it's right here. Oh, come on. There we go. The Festerwood, which is a diseased forest. It's just, there's so much thought put into this book, and it's so well done. And this has been the book that I have recommended to more people than any other book, just because of all of the great stuff that's in it and the ability to drag and drop it into your game. Again, you can get this book specifically on Hit Point Press. You can support them on Patreon. You can find a lot of stuff for free on Instagram. They don't put all their stuff on there, obviously. That'd be a bad business model. But you can find a lot of it. So again, Griffin Saddlebag, so good. 5 out of 5, would recommend. I know that probably doesn't mean anything to the majority of people watching this, but if it does, great. I'm so glad that I could help you. That is all I have for today. Thank you so much for making me a part of your morning routine. Please subscribe, follow along so that I can keep doing this for as long as possible, and the more of you that do, the longer I'll be able to do it. Tune in tomorrow for the week wrap-up, and what am I doing tomorrow? Oh, I'm doing building out your D&D table tomorrow. Not building a literal table, building out like the people around the table. So until next time, keep on rolling.